Hello, everyone. This is your servant and your sister, Babeth Ebeka from Washington, D.C. I am happy to present DRC Excellence Week, celebrating the excellence of the DRC and through our authors. And today I am happy to introduce to you and to discover with you one of our authors in the region, Thaddee Badibanga. Welcome, Thaddee.
Thank you, Babeth. Thank you.
So before we go into this book that you've written or chapter that you wrote as part of this book, Africa-China Cooperation, can you tell us a little bit about yourself so people who are watching us can know who you are?
Yes, I'm Thaddee Badibanga. I'm an associate professor at Bowie State University. I teach economics. I teach theoretical as well as quantitative economics. Also, I'm a researcher, so I've published in several peer-reviewed journals. I've made a lot of presentations at professional meetings, and also I'm involved in administration of my university, as well as several organizations. So I'm the coordinator of most of our regional programs at different colleges and universities. So we don't have enough space to welcome everybody who like to come to our university. What we've done has been to decentralize our programs so that they are actually they're implemented at different schools, but with our own resources. So I'm the one who recruits instructors, I'm the one who conceives the schedules and so on. And we've succeeded actually to graduate students without them coming to our campus. So this actually is something very, very important. I like it.
Yeah, yes. That's really good.
The community, yes.
That's really good opportunities. Maybe we can find out more about that, and I'll encourage people to reach out to you if they're interested in this kind of collaboration.
Exactly. Yeah. This is something conceived exactly for those kind of professionals, people who actually don't have enough time to go through headaches, going to campus and so on. So we have one in Laurel and another one in what is the name again? Wheaton and so on. So yes, proximity, convenience, and so on, and the delivery time. So those are features actually that most professionals like, because they don't have enough time to go or to lose days just going to school.
To travel, exactly, go to school. All right, let us take a look at the book. So the book cover, just so our audience will be able to recognize the book when they see it somewhere. And here's the book, Africa-China Cooperation, Challenges and Prospects. I see that this was a collaboration with many other authors, and I recognize that some of the authors are also Congolese authors. So can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this book?
So we've been, discussing in our think tank about whether the involvement of China in Africa is a good outcome, why Westerns are against it. So what is really going on and so on. Then we said, okay, why, instead of just speculating, why not actually collect facts and do research so that we can at least talk with something actually that comes from data-based evidence. Then, we have different backgrounds, and some actually are historians, some economists, and so on. Then we decide just each of the author in their own field to try to do something about Africa-China cooperation in order actually to provide guidance when it comes to defining policies between Africa and China. And this is the reason why we start writing this. And people get excited, and they said, okay, why not just set the timeline and make sure that those who want to contribute actually will do so, and so on. So we had a lot of people at the beginning, but as usual, people have their own activities and so on. Sometimes it becomes very hard to focus or to meet the deadline and so on. So that by the deadline, those who were not actually ready were actually not considered for the publication in the book. Yes. And
Oh,
myself,
that's
I
great.
was really inspired, in particular, from the debate between, U.S. Policymakers and actually what I've seen personally on ground. So I remember I was invited to make a presentation at the Senate. When I was there, Senator was just asking me, so what is going on? So those Chinese, they are just, predators. They want to take minerals and so on. So they don't give back. They are not serious. Then I told them, I can't actually tell you anything because at the same time, I'm constructed because I look around and see people when I was leaving the country who could not even afford a cell phone. Now I see them with cell phones. I see them with computers. I see them with TVs, and all are Chinese-made products. So now, or should I? Is it okay to say that actually their involvement is not good? I can't tell that. Then this actually motivated me later on at least to collect evidence based so that I can at least speak based on research, not just speculating or guessing.
Speculation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a great book of research. Can you summarize for our audience a little bit the chapter that you contributed to this book?
Yes, my chapter is about the assessment of the economic effect of Chinese foreign direct investment into Africa. So, as I said, you remember early in the 2000s, Chinese actually took off and became the biggest foreign investor in Africa, dethroning the US. Now, it has been something good because due to some political events, Western decided actually not to stay involved in Africa. So at the same time, Chinese, came and fill in the gap. So they've been actually doing certain number of things, building infrastructure, bringing multinational enterprises, lending money, doing certain number of things at least, which we expect to contribute to the development of Africa. But at the same time, when we look on what is going on or what is happening on the ground, you start actually questioning whether or not such involvement actually is economically beneficial to Africans. Then I said, okay, we cannot do this just by looking at policy brief or whatever. I want really to build a model and actually estimate that model and see what the results are. So I did so and so on. Now the challenge was where to get data because I needed data on several variables. Some actually were available from the WDI, mostly for national account and so on for African countries. But some data also were very, very hard to find. For instance, I needed data on human capital. I needed data on institutions, the quality. I needed data on corruption and so on. So it took me longer to gather the data in order actually to at least make sure that I actually can do that. And secondly, when I plot the data, I noticed that there was no any pattern, right? So to determine whether we had a linear relationship or quadratic or whatever, I'm going to save you those details.
Yes.
With the reason why I said, okay, let me just go with everything possible and then I will see the one actually that meets the requirement actually to be validated as a good model for analyzing that relationship. I looked at the result. This didn't come as a surprise because a couple of research before me did the same thing and found out that a Chinese, let's say, investment were not growth promoting in Africa. So then I look at the literature. I convince myself that actually my results actually are acceptable. This is what
consistent. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consistent and so on, relevant and so on. So then I start asking questions. Why this contrast? Yes. Why do we see people enjoying at least Chinese, let's say, made product? Why even people on at the bottom of the society can afford actually goods and services which was luxurious yesterday, but today actually they can afford those products. Then there must be at least something going on. Then I actually start investigating further to see what is going on. The reason actually is very simple. Yes, we need investment. We need people actually to help to transfer the technology, which we don't have. But the problem is that we have not met the minimal or the minimum conditions for actually that technology transfer to happen, right? So we need actually the level of the quality of institution, which when actually people come to Africa, at least they know exactly to determine or to put, to set on safeguards to ensure that those people will not just come, take our minerals and go. Because, for instance, we enjoy the product, but those products actually destroy the our nascent industry. You see, so because the product actually are cheaper, we don't exactly where the parts are coming from, and so were produced at low cost, which actually prevent new and let's say companies actually to survive in the competition, right, in the sector. That's the first issue. The second issue is that our institutions are so weak, such that we can't even prevent them from actually repatriating actually everything they've been generating in our countries, which is a problem, right? So there is a need for some mechanism to ensure that the revenue they actually make in African countries actually are used exactly to develop different markets, value chains, and in the end, actually to affect African economies, which is not happening. So I think this is some sort of wake-up call. It's not a good idea just to stay and expect that those people someday they'll be generous enough to decide to do something for the local communities, right? So it comes to one thing, the policy and the institutions.
Yeah.
So Americans are not wrong. So Chinese investment in Africa are predatory. They're just there to take the mines, that's it. And
So
those things that reach the level for our actually workers to help to adopt and transfer those technologies.
yeah, yeah, very good. It's a very interesting chapter to read and very interesting book to read all together and gather this very important message. What I like is that this is not just speculation. There is a lot of work done behind it, a lot of data gathering, a lot of challenges that you already met. And so you can provide us with these conclusions at the end. And I think that's very, very helpful for many of our policymakers to be able to use this and formulate some policies from this information. So what so you told us a little bit about your challenges already. It was mostly about gathering the data, national accounts data, which we don't always have available for most African countries. But let me ask you a question about your writing style. Do you feel like your writing style has any influence, is influenced in any way by your Congolese origin?
So to be honest, my writing actually I learned it in this country, but at the same time, since I started as an assistant in Congo, teaching assistant, so I wanted to keep at least my roots and also help my community in any way. So this is the reason why I've succeeded to helping them actually to get to different schools because I can write a recommendation letter. I can help with, let's say,
Grants, no.
transcripts,
Research grants,
and so on and so on. But the research part is the hardest one because we are intimidated when it comes to research. So this is something I would like actually to work harder to get my fellow Congolese at least to try. Because I have a friend, he has also contributed in the book. It's let's say, the name is John Ulimwengu. So he always tells me, you know what, you can teach, you can be a good deliverer when it comes to teaching. But the day you die, everybody will forget you. But when you have a piece of writing, 200 years later, after you're deaf, people will still be talking about you.
Yeah.
See, something I like to share with my fellow Congolese. So when you write, actually, your name actually remain forever written in capital letter. Nobody is going to forget it, right?
Yeah.
So, and the more we write, the more likely we'll figure out how to solve our problems. Because look what is happening in our country. We're just there speculating. No solution. Why not solution? Because people don't spend time at least to think. Right?
Research.
Or to put ideas together. I can just give to take an example. We talk about corona, right? We have people actually with major in sociology. We have people with major in family issues and so on. So why cannot they work, figure out exactly how to end that issue instead of just complaining? The government is not doing anything and so on, right? So research actually is the cornerstone. This is something that's helped most countries, in particular the US one, right? And also, my goal, and for all Congolese, would be in the end at least to help policy makers. In this country, all those politicians and so on, so they don't decide based on what they receive from their advisors. They have at least those think tanks which to which they send actually the proposal from their advisor for their offices, just to at least look whether or not this is very good policy to use. And then after the assessment, then they can decide whether to implement it or not. We need to get there, right? At least as we have the opportunity to understand how, let's say, to make a policy to work, right? At least assist our policymaker, our leaders back home, because this is our country. We don't have any other one. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Professor Thaddée Badibanga. Very, very happy to have discovered your work together. Before we finish, what advice can you give? I think you already talked about it a little bit, right? The advice to others who could be writing and researching and who would like to do this.
I like to just start with a quote from my an economics professor, John. I forgot the last name. He used to tell us that research is a false start. What does this mean? It means that even those Nobel prizes we see, when they write the first time and they go back later on to see what they wrote, they are shocked to figure out that they were so stupid to write that way. You see? Because when they compare the final product and the initial one, you have just an idea, I have to do something, and then start writing and so on. When they compare the two, they are just questioning themselves. What happened to them? So just a way to encourage everybody, don't feel ashamed because you look at your first piece or your first draft, you feel like you are stupid. No, this is actually a normal process, right? So just start and then go back, figure out what is not okay, get a friend, get somebody at least to look and tell you whether this does make sense or not. Not any proofreading, because it requires a lot of resources, a lot of time. And then adjust, and then go and listen to people on TV and so on. At least don't stay, yourself and believe that what you're doing is reasonable. At least expose yourself to the outside world, and then come back to improve your writing. This is actually the advice I can give my fellow. So everybody can write, but everybody needs to start and to be patient.
All right.
It was not in one day. So your research will not be completed in 1 week. No.
Yeah. That's right. Thank you so much, Thaddee Badibanga. We're so glad. You can find the book Chinese Congo China. Let me get the title right. Africa-China Cooperation, not Congo, but Africa-China Cooperation. Challenges and Prospects. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find the book in Barnes and Noble. And on Professor Badibanga's chapter, which is chapter 3, he's assessing the economic impact of foreign direct investment inflows into African countries. And he's advising African countries that need design policies that will prevent displacement of local firms and allow equitable distribution of FDI benefits. He's advising the governments of African countries that need to prioritize FDI that facilitates the transfer of new technology and capital accumulation. And finally, African countries must design and implement legislations that limit the amount of profits to be repatriated to allow a portion of those profits to be reinvested into the host country. So that's a very, very fascinating thing. I hope most of our audience will have a chance to explore your research and maybe inspired also to do more. So good to have taken your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know you're overseas, so thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a pleasure actually to do this. So hope to do this again. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.